symbolism in the middle. So here's Croatia, the Croatian government, who are leading a country that removed the Habsburg control, and now they're handing it back to them and their networks that link into the Rothschilds without a gun being fired. And what is about to hit this country when that document is signed, people have no idea. The whole way of life of this country is finished within a matter of years. There's the European Union, controlled by bureaucrats in Brussels, unelected. 500 million people. And there's Croatia. Do you think it will have a say? Anybody think it will have an influence? And once you sign the document, the Croatia becomes subject to anything they decide in the bureaucracy. And I'm told, I'm not here long enough to be an expert, I wouldn't claim to be, I wouldn't patronize you by saying I am, but from what I'm told, there's no debate worth the name going on in politics in Croatia between different political parties about going into the European Union. Well, they should be friggin' ashamed of themselves, given what they're about to impose upon this nation and upon this land. Why? Question I had last time I was here. Croatia's not in the European Union yet. What's the European Union flag flying on government buildings for? Because it's a done deal. To these people, you and the rest of the Croatian nation does not matter. You're just cattle. Just pawns in the game. Have a referendum and let them choose. Are you joking? They might say no. Now we talk about tanks and armies gathering on the border about to invade a country. Well, that's happening to Croatia now, except they're not tanks. They are piles and piles, mountains and mountains of legislation, sub-clauses, triplicates, fine detail dictating how everyone lives their lives, what they can do and what they can't do, what the government can do and can't do. Because any law, once you're in, passed by the Croatian parliament that is at odds with a law decided by bureaucrats in Brussels, then the law passed by the Croatian parliament becomes invalid. See, Britain went into the European community, now the European Union, thanks to that guy Ted Heath I mentioned earlier, signed us in as Prime Minister. And I've watched the totalitarian tiptoe of more and more centralization, more and more legislation, more and more sub-clauses and regulations and rules, building up and building up and building up, year after year, month after month, decade after decade. And we kind of seen it happen right up to the present day. It's not been nice, but at least, you know, you've seen it happen. All of that is now piled up on the Croatian border. And all of that becomes the law that Croatian people must abide by, and governments, companies, individuals, the moment those documents are signed. Tidal wave. That's what it is. A tidal wave of legislation, of do's, don'ts, can'ts, musts, are about to devastate the freedom of this country to make its own choices. And no bloody debate. They're doing the same in America. They're very, very close to introducing the North American Union. Well, they'll bring Mexico, United States, and Canada under one government and with one currency. Working title, at least working title, is called the Amero, to replace the dollar, the Canadian dollar, and the peso. That would never happen unless there was economic catastrophe in America. Oh, there's economic catastrophe in America. And during the Nixon administration, they produced a planned regionalization of the United States, just as they've done in Europe. And so as this moves on, we have now a name for it, globalization, which is the centralization of every area of our lives. It is the agenda I've been talking about for nearly 20 years, now appearing before our eyes. And what we see with the protests and the left, and good luck to them with the protests and all that stuff, they protest against globalization, but they're missing such a point. Oh, please. This is not about big bad corporations being greedy. It is on one level, but the corporations are not the originators of globalization. They are the vehicles for it. And if all these different protest groups, protesting against war, protesting against unfair trade, protesting against globalization, would just realize they're all protesting against the same core force that's responsible for all of them. If we realize that, we might have just some chance of coming together. Because it's funny, not funny, aha, funny, oh my God, that the left in politics are some of the most resistant to accepting that there is a global conspiracy. And one of the reasons for that is it means their whole worldview has to change. Because it's not us and them anymore. It's that group which control both us and them. They don't want to move that. They want to hold on to the old paradigm of us against them, right against wrong, right against left, good against bad. Political correctness is part of it. This is a politically correct sign. I love this. Caution, this sign has sharp edges. Do not touch the edges of this sign. Then at the bottom it says, also the bridge is out ahead. You know, it's a crazy world we're living in. So, programming the body computer. I'm going to go quickly through this because we need a break. They know the body's a computer and therefore they know it can be programmed. The microchip, which I've been talking about and writing about for years, is now slowly but surely being introduced. We need to not accept that big time. Because, as I said in the first part of this presentation, they can have human-computer interface communication because they're connecting to computers. Well, a microchip can affect a computer system, a biological computer system. Microchips are not just for electronic tagging, though that's part of it, so the computer knows where you are all the time. Once you get a microchip inside you, they can start to manipulate you externally, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Because they are affecting the body computer systems. Therefore, they're affecting it electrochemically and physically. And they're much smaller than this now. And like I say, this is what they want, barcoded people. It's all hypnotism to put us in the vibrational prison. Computer access. Well, the human form at one level is an electrochemical organism. To be optimum physically, mentally, and in terms of receiver transmission, connection, it needs to be in some sort of electrical chemical balance. If you destabilize that electrical chemical balance, you make it much less effective as a thinking, emotional, feeling receiver transmitter. And this is what shite food has done. You know, people say, oh, the American culture's everywhere. It's not. America is a mind control laboratory set up for that purpose. They try first in America what is most effective on suppressing the population mentally, physically, and emotionally. When it works, they export it to the rest of the world, and at that point we say American culture's everywhere. It's not. It's the mind control physical manipulation, mental and emotional manipulation techniques that have shown to work in America that the rest of the country then